Hey,
Streaming okay.
stream's okay. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I call the December Guam Board of Accountancy Board meeting to order. Before we begin, we'll just for the meeting properly noticed.
September 11, 16.
Number 11 and 16.
Yep.
Okay, properly noticed, so go ahead and begin. Present are board members, Sean Phillips, Jenny Chu, Talene Tartano, and myself. And Executive Director Dave Sanford.
Excuse.
And Francis Bava has been, the other board member has been excused. So first item on the agenda would be to approve last month's minutes to the meeting, November 20 meeting.
Motion to approve subject to correction. Second.
Second, so are there any corrections? No corrections, okay. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the old business. Dave, would you want to give us the update on the accountancy endowment fund update?
Sure, ran over to the page of the statement, you got the summary and value over time here on the top, and then the next page, which is the summary. I say summary, but it shows us the quarter to date and the year to date. As of December 16, we had 6.3 million. As of the end of November, we had 6.4 million, but of course it's going up and down due to the market, so
Thank you.
2 weeks later it's down, but it'll go back up and then go back down again.
But it looks like most of the investments are somewhat conservative because it's
Right.
it's the tech industry that's really taking a hit.
Yeah, the tech, it's up today and down tomorrow, up today. It's been up and down 200 or 300 points every day for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think in the end, I think it's gonna win out just increasing. I don't think it's gonna go down. But we're looking at a year-to-date performance of 11.49%. Can't complain about
Okay,
almost
very good.
double what our investment plan calls for, so we're not in any danger in that sense.
11%. We never had, we never got back to who was asking us about the alternative investments, so they haven't
Yeah,
done anything like that.
the endowment management people were asking, but we haven't said yes or no yet. I looked at it and number one, I'm not an investment manager, so I wouldn't begin to say I have any real knowledge compared to the people who recommended, but on the other hand, I see articles about the wariness of investing in private equity investments, which is like private company bonds and those kind of things. So unless you really have a handle on who you're actually dealing with, I think it could be
Risky.
Kind of the way I feel. I'm personally not inclined to do it, but from a fund standpoint, they're saying that it's recommended that we take part of our fund and invest it in private equity investments.
Yeah, I've never
Are they
suggested.
investing in it?
No, they're asking us, do we want to do that now that we've reached a level of fund level? I guess they feel like you can get better returns because you've got a high enough balance
I
to.
think they were suggesting what, 10%
I
or
think so, 10 or 12, something like
so a
that.
certain portion of the investment.
That was a recommendation and we've evaluated, and they gave us some information to evaluate it with, but we haven't really.
And who has the authority to make that decision? Is it the endowment fund or is it?
Well, they're asking us, we have oversight over the fund itself, the board does, as part of the, it's an agency advised endowment, so. We can, give advice, so they're asking us, are we,
So it's
interested in doing that?
an advisory
Right.
sort of
Capacity.
issue.
Yeah, the endowment fund
Yeah.
board, the UOD endowment fund board
Right.
they have ultimate authority to do whatever they want to do. But, it's restricted with the way you set up each individual endowment has some level of restrictions,
Mhm.
that could override if if they have a valid, fiduciary reason to do so.
Uh-huh.
You know, but they're asking, you know, are we, you know, amenable to, I guess, expanding our investment, portfolio to include private equity?
I assume it's higher
They're saying,
risk.
that- yeah, they're saying that we
The
can,
return.
they're saying we can earn a higher return, and I guess one of the reasons they're asking is because we've reached a volume level in the fund over 5 million. We've got enough to participate in some of the private equity investment. But again, I don't know what to say. Yeah, we should do that. But to me, it just is a little risky compared to other things, you know, it's all risky to some extent.
11% isn't bad.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And I'm not really complaining at this point when our plan says 6%, over 20 years.
yeah, okay, so it sounds like we just want to status quo and not necessarily maybe reassess later.
Yeah, or if we, I mean, we could ask them to do a presentation to really explain it if you guys wanna set up a time to do so. Anybody interested, or we could, I'm sure they could do a Zoom meeting or whatever. If
Well, they had something with us,
Anybody
trying to
wanna
explain
do
it, but I,
Yeah, they just sent.
very high level and I
They emailed us the information and I took a look at it,
Yeah.
but, it's kind of, yeah, I went through some of it and it's.
so it's alternative investment, so it's not like
Yeah.
they're investing directly in certain stock or bonds, it's some entity creates another type of investment that's linked to another.
More or less, it's kind of, I guess, to me,
Like a pool.
it looks
Almost
more
like
like,
a pool, right?
yeah, mortgage pool or exchange traded fund, even if you could say. To some extent, but not with the same parameters, but, you know, the kind of approved investment, but. The some of it, I think the bigger key was that we reached a level of a balance level over 5 million. I think you have to have a certain amount to participate in those kinds of investments. They're saying, well, you guys now have this much money, maybe you should invest some of it in, you're to earn a higher rate of return than what we're getting.
Okay.
I can ask to arrange a meeting if you guys want to do so.
What do you guys feel like?
If anybody's interested.
If anything, it would be educational,
Yeah, yeah.
probably
Yeah,
should,
they said something
Yeah,
else.
it doesn't hurt to listen.
Okay, I'll ask them to do it.
in January.
Zoom meeting, right, yeah, Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll
Who's
ask,
gonna be doing this, Raymond James, or is it somebody?
it's Raymond.
It's Raymond, okay.
Raymond James, yeah. Jason and, yeah. Okay, anyway, yeah, we're hanging in there.
It's good.
Nothing else. We did show, if you look over to the last page, where they have the summary of gains and losses, they did, I guess they took some profits, so. Short-term gain, long-term gain and loss, so we have a net, actually a net long-term gain of 69,000, for the year, at this point, through November. So I guess they figured it was time to, you know, take some profits for the area. But. Otherwise, I think they're doing fine. So I'll ask about an investment. Meeting, see if they could set something up in January. Visiting professor program, don't have any more feedback at this point.
Okay,
I do know that, I believe, NASBA and UOG were making the transition, know that, the construction's going on for, reducing the size of the test center and stuff like that. They're also putting in new hardware and things and I think the transfers are gonna happen as of, I'm thinking November 1st, but I'm not sure when the actual cutoff is gonna be, but whenever that happens, then the board will no longer receive any revenue from the test center.
Okay,
At that point, it'll all go just to UOG.
which is okay. I mean, we're only
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah, we're a couple of $1,000 a month.
just looking at the numbers.
You know, our budget for the year was like 15,000, and that was way back,
Yeah,
from a year and a half ago.
so FY 25, we only had 14,000.
Yeah, so, it's relatively speaking, it's not much, it won't have much effect on us.
Yeah,
Actually, it won't have any real effect on us.
okay,
Well, I think UOG, Dr. Jones figures that she's got, some leads to help, bolster the testing and some of the other tests besides CPA exam. And they feel like they can make a go of it. Randy has signed on, so apparently it's happening.
okay, good.
And at least our local candidates have a place to go take the CPA exam.
Is it open right now or they're
It's still open.
tests are
They're still,
administered?
as far as I know, they're still administering.
Good.
All they're doing at this point is taking the existing test center and there was one section that, I went, and looked at with Randy. There was one, the testing room that was on the far end has a separate door over there, access door, and they basically were just gonna wall off the whole rest of it. So that they had the little office area, a server room area in the testing room. That's
Okay.
basically it. Yeah.
But they haven't given that space up yet.
Well, the UOG signed a lease, took over the lease or signed a lease with Cortec, they own the building. And, so NASBA's out of the space, so the rest of the space, I don't know what Cortec. I think they said that they were just gonna leave the rest of it as is to see if it begins to grow again, they might wanna take it back over, but remains to be seen. So, but everything seems to be working from a transition standpoint. My understanding is that from the candidate's perspective, they wouldn't know the difference, in terms of signing up or taking the test, that kind of thing. I think they're gonna be installing new hardware and stuff, they're upgrading all the systems and things. Otherwise, I think we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the visiting professor program for
Yeah.
next year. I think I'm inclined to work on somebody coming for next summer. Program.
2026.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we'll see if we can find somebody, that wants to maybe. Spend a whole semester or whatever,
Okay,
based on whatever Dr. Jones comes up with from a requirement standpoint. So,
okay, good. So that's it. So go to new business.
yeah,
It's the request for approvals for the
yeah, we got, I think.
certification and licenses.
64, yeah, 64 new ones, no Guam or Saipan, and everywhere else in the world. Cayman Islands, Canada, Egypt, Qatar, UAE, India, Israel, Jordan, Middle East. We got
There's,
a lot of Middle East.
there seems to be, I'm thinking Japan. There's a,
Yeah, there's
Japan.
several in Japan
yeah,
too.
okay.
Yeah. One,
Yeah,
Philippines.
Are they testing here? Well, they're testing there.
They can test in the Philippines.
The Philippines, that's right.
Yeah, unfortunately. The one from Texas,
California.
yeah. Couple of Japan, couple of Taiwan. Saudi Arabia. One China. Yep.
Move to approve.
From.
Okay,
Second.
I heard motion. Okay, second by Jenny, approved. And then I guess an update on new pathways, mobility update issues.
Yeah, we should have a discussion on that, I guess, that's what I was thinking, we should at this point just discuss what we wanna do, 35. 35 or 36 or 37 or 38 or 39 or 40 or 41 or 42 or 43 or 44 or 45 or 46 or 47 or 48 or 49 or 50 or 51 or 52 or 53 or 54 or 55 or 56 or 57 or 58 or 59 or 60 or 61 or 62 or 63 or 64 or 65 or 66 or 67 or 68 or 69 or 70 or 71 or 72 or 73 or 74 or 75 or 76 or 77 or 78 or 79 or 80 or 81 or 82 or 83 or 84 or 85 or 86 or 87 or 88 or 89 or 90 or 91 or 92 or 93 or 94 or 95 or 96 or 97 or 98 or 99 or 100 or 101 or 102 or 103 or 104 or 105 or 106 or 107 or 108 or 109 or 110 or 111 or 112 or 113 or 114 or 115 or 116 or 117 or 118 or 119 or 120 or 121 or 122 or 123 35 jurisdictions that have passed legislation to accept the new pathway, quote unquote, the bachelor's degree, plus 2 years experience. As quote, new pathway with, some designation of accounting courses and such, of course. So 35 jurisdictions have done that. And, basically, there's no reason, there's no evidential reason not to.
Yeah.
Because there's no empirical evidence or any evidence that shows that the bachelor's degree in 2 years experience is any better or worse than a master's degree in 1 year's experience or whatever. From an educational or experience standpoint for being an entry-level CPA. The only thing that came up, and that's what I have, this next topic is this, key information for state boards on degree reclassification, because it does have a bearing on it. What, I was on the executive director call last week, Wednesday, I think, our Wednesday, their Tuesday. And this came up and, the point was made that basically accepting the quote new pathway, meaning bachelor's in 2 years experience, is essentially shooting ourselves in the foot relative to this new federal Department of Education definition, which requires that professional degree be they define a professional degree, so they basically say the accounting degrees are not professional degrees.
Also
And
saying
accounting,
Nursing, yeah.
accounting is not a profession, neither is nursing.
Architects,
And the reason for, architects too, engineers too, to some extent.
engineers, wow.
Yeah, but if you flip over a couple of pages, you get to the one that has a little highlight at the bottom of the page like this. That actually is the professional degree definition under the new law or new rule. And the professional degree is a degree that signifies both completion of the academic requirements for beginning practice in a given profession and a level of professional skill beyond that normally required for a bachelor's degree. Professional licensure is also generally required. An example are all
You have to be a doctor
PhDs
or
are
a
masters or
preacher?
doctor or, the preacher can be a master.
It's like a master's or.
Otherwise a doctor. So basically what they're saying is, it's not a professional degree if you don't need at least a master's or beyond.
No.
In terms of a degree. So if we go back and say, well, we accept a bachelor's in 2 years experience, then that's just giving them fodder for saying, oh, it's not a profession. County is not a profession because it's not a professional degree. Well, there's a whole lot of people that disagree with that, including me, and I think all of us probably,
But David, even if we don't go back, our existing still doesn't qualify for a professional.
well, no, because we require the 150
50
hours,
hours only.
which is technically is a master's degree, so in that sense, but they still say, accounting, and it's a broad sweep thing with this rule. And the reason they did this, ostensibly is because they're looking at the student loan program and how to make it viable. Because of all the things that's happened in the past where, the federal government took over and said, I'll give you the loan, and then all the schools doubled their tuition because they knew they could get loans for this stuff for nothing, and nothing is paid back.
Yeah.
And then they're saying, well, the kids graduate with a $200,000 debt and a degree that's not gonna earn them enough to pay back the debt. So they're saying, well, we're gonna classify these positions so that if you're earning this degree, we think you can earn enough money to pay the loan for $50,000 a year. But if you're only earning that degree, we don't think you're gonna earn enough, so we're gonna limit your loan amount to $20,000 a year or $25,000 a year. So they're saying, essentially, they're trying to equate the cap of the loan for the school is relative to the potential earnings of the degree. I mean, that's basically what they're doing. in this Department of Education.
Theology was a well-paying profession, I guess it is.
I guess not.
Theology.
Yeah, I don't know how well paying theology is, I guess. It depends
Well, I
on-
didn't see that one in the back.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Well, I don't have my
on,
eyes, I thought it said poetry, it's podiatry.
Yeah, podiatry, yeah, poetry, well, yeah. Podiatry even so, but I mean, but that's kind of where it came from. Now, the question is how it winds up. Now, as soon as I finished, the executive director called all of the board for the executive directors and NASBO, they were all arguing that, well, the CPA should really get behind this and do all the lobbying, right?
But
And so as soon as I finished the executive director call, I went on the focus, the town hall focus thing with the CPA council, right? And that's the first thing they brought up was this issue and how they've already written letters and they're planning a lobbying and they're doing all these things, right? So nobody knows how it's gonna wind up, what it's gonna wind up being, but it's just one other thing to consider, Now, the real issue is that, if 35 jurisdictions have done it, what's 35 out of 55 is at least 65%, right? So almost 3/4.
I'm just wondering, do we know, or can we find out just how many students at UOG get that'll be impacted? I mean, I don't know if they're actually getting
I don't know that.
student aid
I don't
major in accounting.
I don't think well, I don't know, we could ask, but I seriously doubt that they would
You
even.
also have to
Give
wonder
you
if
the
we
information.
pass, if we reduce the requirements, if that will mean the end of the master's program.
Yeah, well, Dr.
Yeah, Martha didn't seem to think so.
There's enough interest because there are a lot, well, the students that are taking it are using it
Yeah,
to study for the exam and
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
like a
because it
gap,
includes
bridge
the
it,
exam
yeah,
review courses.
and to get
And
an
the
upper
fact
level degree.
that with a
master's
master's degree, they get a little more money, so than they would with a bachelor's degree. Especially if they work for the government, right? So, that's the incentive, I think, for the
That's right,
master's
you're
program.
right, that's
Yeah.
that can be quantified.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to layer those, so
yeah, but,
you can't get a CPA and then the CGFM and then a master's, it's
yeah.
just.
Well, it's just one, or you can get
You
additional,
get the most, so like, I think the CPA is 10%,
Take the
so
highest.
once you get the 10%,
That's
that's
it.
it.
that's all.
you don't add on another 5 or
Yeah,
something.
I think they had some guy at the AG's office that was,
Trying to do it all.
Layer
yeah,
everything.
layering it and then.
Plus.
Yeah.
There's always
He
one.
was told he needs to pay it back.
Leave it to the legal.
Wow.
guy.
Yeah,
Leave
pay
it
it
to the
back.
legal guy. The lawyer tried it. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I
But
mean, I was told that Martha was feeling that it wouldn't really have
Yeah.
that much of an impact on the MAC program.
That's what
Because
she
that
said.
was one of my first thoughts was, well, if they don't need the 150, they won't need the MAC, but I think because it includes all the review courses and frankly. The $10,000 for the UOG MAC program, is,
Very good deal.
if you take that, all total and you wind up with the masters, but. You've gone through the review courses that are gonna cost you $3,500 to $4,000 anyway. I mean, so you can spend 4,000 and study for the exam and, not get a master's, or spend 6,000 more and go ahead and get the master's and you're still studying for the exam, so. It tends to make sense, in that economic sense and in that perspective, but.
Well, I mentioned this to Tom so many years, but when I went through my MAC program, they taught you everything you needed to pass the CPA exam after 4 years.
Yeah,
That 5th year was not a CPA review program.
right,
It was
Right.
case studies and
it's a real MAC
it
program,
would help you with your career. That
Yeah.
was
yeah, that's the point. of
yeah,
it,
the point of that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but a lot of people, a lot of schools have different, capabilities, I guess you
Yeah.
should say, so. They include the review courses as part of the MAC program courses, so. And a lot of universities today, all through the states, have incorporated the review courses into the other courses, their MAC programs. Whether you get credit for it or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know many of them have also included the MAC program. The MAC programs have included the review course materials. But, you know, the bottom line is you want more CPAs, then you give them a bachelor's degree, then it's more affordable per se, from an outright economic perspective. It's cheaper to get a bachelor's degree and 2 years experience, work experience. But 35 jurisdictions have accepted that quote unquote new pathway, so. You know, I mean, it's up to the board whether you wanna do that.
But I think the problem,
Whether it's gonna be advantageous or not.
well, I think the bigger concern for us right now is the pipeline, we need more
Yeah.
CPAs.
Exactly.
So that's,
Well,
That's-
that's
I
why
think that's the
everybody
bigger
else has
need.
done it.
right,
That's why all the other jurisdictions have done it, and, yeah.
because the students, if they really want to get the accounting degree, they'll find a way. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're gonna get less financial aid,
Yeah.
maybe they'll need to work more
Yeah.
or decide to go a different school.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing we're hearing is that a lot of, the kids are now deciding to go to, some of the cheaper schools, especially down in the States, they're moving from the New England schools to the Southeast schools because it's cheaper, and also the living and everything else is cheaper, so, you know. And they feel like, some of them actually have commented that they feel like if they go to the Southeastern school, they actually get a useful education versus what they're getting in New England, you know. Who knows? But
Okay,
you know, how many years we had the pathway of bachelor's degree
Yeah.
in 2 years, and we've never had we didn't ever have more disciplinary problems then, or, you know, capability problems, so. I don't see that it's going to affect anything in terms of protecting the public interest, so it's just a matter of making it more affordable, you know, for people to become CPAs that want to.
great.
Um,
So do we need to do a vote or we just all agree?
Well, yeah, we have to rewrite the law and rules, so, that's what I'm doing, so.
Okay,
But I can go ahead and do that, and then we ultimately, the board will have to approve the rewrite before we submit it, so.
okay. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I guess in terms of timing,
Yeah, as soon as possible.
as soon as possible. So you think it would be available to discuss the next board meeting or I know there's holidays. so
Probably not, because,
Yeah,
I may have told you, John, we were talking, but I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but I found out that Joe McDonald no longer has the agreement with the AG, so I have to do an RFP for his services.
oh,
So I went back and looked up the small procurement deal we did last time to get him for that
Right.
AICPA legal thing. So I'm gonna try to
Okay.
put that out within the next couple of weeks, maybe the first week of January.
okay,
Cause nobody's gonna respond to anything in the next 2 weeks anyway, if I even send it out. If I put it out the first week of January, hopefully by the end of January, we can actually hire him, get a legal person on board for, you know, giving us some services, you know, helping rewrite the stuff, because there's a bunch of other
Are
stuff.
you gonna try to do the AAA or are you just gonna go directly to the
No,
legislature?
the AAA, forget it.
Is Joe S.
Huh?
Who's your oversight?
Oh, now?
Oh, that's right, it's a new
It's,
majority.
Chris Duenas. That's not a problem. The AAA problem is the fact that you still have to get the AG to sign it, then you have to get the governor to sign off on the policy, and, you know.
There's like a ton of
It's
people.
all kinds of crap you have to do now. It takes
We,
longer than.
like 2 years still in the making. We're
It's a-
still waiting for
the last one I did, which was when we changed the fee, for the application fee. It took us 16 months to change the application fee. Which used to take us like 90 days, so. I think it's easier just to rewrite the whole thing and have it passed as a law and, like we did before, because.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we can get the legislature to, accept it and pass it pretty fast. Just a matter of getting it, the rewrite done. And I got part of it done, but then we need the legal reviews and.
But we do also have rules, right? And
Yeah, we rewrite the whole thing, the law and the rules, all together,
okay,
all together in one package.
okay,
So everything fits, cause I have to take out all the stuff before
The
about the old
legislature has
exam
the
thing
year
and
to
stuff.
go through the AAA.
And the
Okay.
legislature just passes the whole thing.
I see,
And it's
including the
done,
rules.
Including the rules,
Got it.
and it's done, yeah.
But can we do it in such a way where, there's a change in the future, we just do it through rules?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There are several jurisdictions that rewrote their laws so that they could make a change of the educational requirements in the rules, but right now it's
Okay.
in the law, so.
Okay,
The problem is, even if you change the rules, you still have to go through the AAA and it still has to go through everybody.
oh, it's the same
Right.
process then.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't
if
make a
we
difference.
can, unless we can get the AAA process rewritten. Which I'm thinking about doing, so we'll talk to the person that rewrote it in the first place. That made it more difficult, and see if she can't make it less difficult.
Okay,
But, yeah. But I mean, basically, I'm for it. I don't see any reason not to be, because we need more CPAs. Making it more affordable.
I'm curious if the students that are graduating, we're trying to find out in spring, how many of them actually meet the 150? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not sure.
I'm
But we
sure
can
there's
try
some
and
that
find
are
out.
already waiting, I've had a few queries, is it gonna happen, is it gonna be changed soon, so. But I mean, 35 have already done it, 35 out of 55, and I know that there's at least another handful that have it in progress, so.
So Dave, right now, let's say there's some students or some that don't have the 150. They can still apply and sit for the exam, however,
Sure,
they
yeah.
they would need to demonstrate that they're currently taking some courses or.
They're in the educational program that allows them to meet the requirements.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah, so we still, I mean, we're gonna keep all of that for, we'll keep all of that. We just add the additional pathway.
Okay, so people ask me, I'll just tell them,
Adding it back,
you could apply, you just need to
right,
somehow be in some program that you're currently taking courses to work toward the.
yeah, they
150.
just have to fill out the form and sign it. It's kind of like an affidavit that says, yes, I'm participating in a program, educational program that
Okay.
allows me to fulfill the requirements,
Mhm.
and yes, I know I won't get my grades unless I complete my education. I won't be able to use my grades to say I'm eligible for licensure.
Okay,
And we're gonna keep that, yeah.
are international candidates sort of bringing this up as an issue? Are they asking about the potential change?
I've only had one email from an international person. Most of them already have 150 hours. It's not a big deal for them, because for a lot of them, it's the second career, second
Yeah, so that's
education
okay,
kind of thing. So they already have other. By the time they get their accounting courses, they've got plenty of hours. Occasionally we run into a candidate here and there, and they're like, oh, I don't have business law, so where can I go get it? So we recommend they go online and, they do things like that. Okay,
all right, okay, good. So perhaps by February, we might have something.
I'm hoping, just time to get it done.
Good, okay, next item, Dave.
You roll over to the starts with the meeting of the board of directors in July. This is the NASMIP communications for the quarter. I'm just gonna roll through this to highlight a few things. So Coulter Baker is now the vice chair nominee for 25-26, which means he'll be the chair in 26-27. He's been with NASMA for quite a long time. He's been part of the UAA committee and a lot of other things. I think he'll make a good chair. Yeah, nice guy, smart. Dan Dustin gave an update on the meeting with the executive directors committee, and he has a small group of executive directors he meets with every 4 to 6 weeks. So yes, Dan was the former executive director from New York State before he went to work for NASMA, so he's very familiar with the executive director role and a lot of the executive directors he knows. So. Wendy Garvin, who was the executive director for Tennessee, is now the executive vice president for NASMA. And she said, attending the AICPA Spring Council, interacting with federal regulators, learned some additional information to give the Enforcement Resources Committee for NASMA. She also has been meeting with the International Ethics Standards Board, IESBA, and the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. And she's had discussions relating to CPA Canada and the tri-party MRA with Canada and Mexico in an upcoming international summit between Canada, Mexico, and NASMA and the ICPA this coming February. So we'll see if anything comes of that. Right now, all of those MRAs with Canada and Mexico have all, I think, expired, so they're not necessarily in place, but I think people are still availing them to some extent. She also updated the board around the risk and compliance, including the latest SOC Type 2 and the AT 101 reports issued for NASMA this is about the accountancy licensing database and some of the readiness assessment by the audit team. Then jump down, John Johnson, who's in charge of tracking all the legislative activity for all 55 jurisdictions. It says 30 jurisdictions that filed legislation regarding pathways and/or mobility. And he's got an analysis of the differences in the quote guardrails adopted by jurisdictions pertaining to mobility, and about the number of jurisdictions which adopted the UAA language for the new path, as well as safe harbor language for the mobility moving forward. When he talks about guardrails for mobility, he's talking about there's a thing called automatic mobility now, where basically if you're licensed over there, you can do anything you want to over here and you don't have to tell us about it. But if you get in trouble, then we can do whatever they could do to you. Same thing, like the driver's license thing. But there are other jurisdictions that have changed their mobility statutes to say, well, you can come here under mobility and do this, that, and the other, but if you want to do that, you have to get our license, that kind of thing. A little bit about, like, we've had individual mobility, which means the individuals can come here and practice and basically provide any service other than the test or assurance services. If they want to do assurance services, they need a Guam firm permit. So that kind of thing is what they refer to as guardrail. And some have gone just, we're open. You can come do whatever you want. We don't care. If you got a license, good over here. And they don't have any other requirements. So he's got an entire analysis with there's few variations, but nothing really that stands out at this point that I've seen. The worry was that with all these jurisdictions changing their laws and changing the different rules and statutes, that someone would potentially break mobility, meaning, you can't come here without getting our license, and, then, what happens after that? And, oh, you can practice over there, but you can't practice over there, right? That kind of thing. So, but But to date, that has not happened, so I don't think it will happen. Ultimately, now, if you want to move to another jurisdiction and reside there, then there are different rules, like we require a reciprocal license. If you're licensed in another jurisdiction and you want to actually move to Guam and reside here and open an office here, then you need to get a reciprocal license. But it's just a matter of the formality, as long as you're actively validly licensed in the other jurisdiction with no disciplinary issues, then you just apply and we issue a reciprocal license. There are several, or more than a handful of jurisdictions that require that if you're going to actually reside in their jurisdiction. Now, if you're just going to come in and do some service for a client and then out of your office in another jurisdiction, that's just a mobility thing. You don't need anything. And there's no notice or anything like that.
I think the NASBO website has a good link where you can ask that question.
Right, that's what they have updated their website to basically be a lot more current with where you can go and what the requirements are for each individual jurisdiction.
So individuals or even firms are interested in coming to Guam, let's say to perform services, they just go click on the link and then it'll tell them.
Tell them what they have to do.
Yeah.
Every now and
What
then
they
we
do.
get an inquiry from people that are like, do we have to do this or do that? And it's not a big deal. The few that we've got recently are people in India or a foreign country that we've issued a Guam CPA license because they qualified, and they have their license, but they want to reside in their country and do remote audits, and they want us to issue them a firm permit so they can do remote audits. And we're like, no, sorry, you don't get a firm permit in Guam unless you have an office in Guam. Just ain't gonna happen. And there, almost every other jurisdiction, when that got discussed on an executive director call too, and everybody said basically the same thing.
They did, okay. So other states are similar.
Yeah. So, yeah. Then NASBA website was updated to comply with the web content accessibility guidelines, which, that's for the people who are hearing impaired and sight impaired, things like that. So that if you are hearing impaired, it does visual things. If you're sight impaired, then you could actually have a setting so that basically everything just gets read to you, by a reader or stuff like that. There's a whole set of standards that you comply with if you want to be, like I said, usable for all visitors. They finally got around to doing that. Dustin says that the NASBA is working with state boards to produce age stratification reporting of licensees in jurisdictions to identify where potential gaps exist and examine how the demographics of CPAs nearing retirement could impact the pipeline. At this point, I'm not sure how many jurisdictions actually have that information available and are willing or ready to share it with anybody.
We're not required to report our birth date or anything, right?
No. I think we gather birth dates, but I don't think we have any requirement in the law that says we require it. I'm not sure. I've never seen any requirement in the law, but we do get the information. I don't know if they require it for the exam to apply for the exam or what, because you have to be a minimum 18 or whatever to be able to sign the affidavit that said the cheating thing and all that stuff. So. Then Bill Emmer, who's the chief operating officer, I guess, he's in the Guam Testing Center, will cease operations in October. So reported that NASBA is conducting a review of the exam security and examining the AICPA NDA and informed consent agreement. They're now focusing on applications submitted to NASBA's International Evaluation Service because they've got the regular application process down to an 8 to 10 day window. They want to get the NIES services working more efficiently too. And, then they, launched the mobile CPA mobile app, which lets all the candidates do everything on their phone that they used to have to do on the website. Not a big deal there. Then the current projected operating excess was 4.1 million, increase of 1.5 million from the previous projection. The candidate volume since January 25 was better than projected, even though revenue remains less for the year due to lower expired notice to schedules and no-show revenue. Because NASBA, whenever somebody signs up, they get their application processed, then they pay for a notice to schedule, and they don't show up, then those fees are all forfeited. So, and I guess NASBA takes them. So the total expenses are less than budget, so they're coming out with investment income projected to be 4.7 million. So total net asset increase of 8.8 million for the fiscal year, which is why I thought that they could spend a little bit more on charge us less registration fees for meetings. For fiscal 26, a 1% increase in exam volume is a budget impact, and fee increases for the CPA exam services, which is like our applications and the NIES and the CPE registries. So they've had some higher travel and meeting expenses. So their total revenue budget's 43.2 million, and the expense budget's 41.8. So they're looking at a 1.4 million result. But we'll see what happens for fiscal 26. I think their fiscal year ends in July or something like that. Anyway, then as of June 30, the investment securities balance was 51.5. I'm not sure what their goal is to do with the investment securities of 51 million. I'm not sure what they plan to do with that. But their return for the trailing 5 years, 3 years, and 12 months was 7.2, 8.5, and 8.1 respectively. So
Decent returns.
they're getting decent returns on a $51 million investment. So I would say, yeah, that pretty much mirrors the market, like they say.
Maybe they should invest in private equity.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe they do better. Then if you jump over to the CPE committee, they had a detailed discussion on revision to the statement of standards, and the goals of the committee was to simplify the document and look at standards and how they relate to the society today. So they made a few changes, but nothing, untoward. The executive director committee is supportive of the private equity task force, which is looking at how we, how do we regulate private equity owning CPA firms? The discussion we had last time, that kind of thing. And it's gonna be an ongoing thing, I think, for another year or so, probably. I know that some of the other NASBA committees are looking at some of the issues, and the AICPA Ethics Committee is still looking at what to do with it, so. They haven't come up with anything. The Education Committee says they're looking at 4 subject areas for education grants, which is artificial intelligence and the impact on the audit function, impact of private equity on the CPA profession, the adequacy of CPE requirements, and changing retirement to aid the CPA pipeline is considered research topics.
So there are gonna be a lot of CPAs retiring in the next 5 years, so.
That's what they say, but they've been saying that for like 5 years already, so. I think it's just a continuing trend, Okay, pull over to the next standard setting and professional trends advisory committee there. They have plans to refresh the standard setting matrix. And I didn't know exactly what that was, but it says the matrix summarizes an evaluation of the key practices and standard setting among the primary professional standard setting accounting bodies in the US. If that's not a mouthful. They report that the research supporting the evaluations is conducted by committee members, and it's key to helping the public and the accounting profession have confidence in the standards. Therefore, they need to be fair and transparent. I guess they're looking at whatever they're using to, this is how we define a standard and Well, I have no idea, but there must be something, there must be some standards to standard setting process. They're the standard setting process. Not anxious to get into those weeds. Yeah. Then the Regulatory Response Committee is working on a proposal by the Auditing Standards Board to do a rewrite of the fraud standard.
Oh, interesting.
So that's gonna be interesting. It'll probably be coming in another year, maybe. And as with board action, they took action to approve the signed contracts with the state of New Hampshire. I guess New Hampshire finally signed on to being like a CPACE state where they do the applications, stuff like that, licensing. Policy discussions was on the business continuity around the CPA exam, and they're looking at a range of incidents that might impact the exam. And the parties include NASBA, ACP, and Prometric, which I call the triad, of course. They're talking about the security of the exam remains top priority, of course. Each party has a business continuity plan of its own. There is also a business continuity plan that incorporates the three parties. Each party has a cyber incident response plan in case of a cybersecurity breach. But each party is continuing to focus on risk and probability and what would need to take place from a national perspective to be prepared if something should occur. Could be a big job, could be an expensive job too. Miss Garvin, Wendy Garvin, with Mr. Vukovich, led a discussion on the private equity task force activities and alternative practice structures in general. Includes issues such as use of title, firm ownership requirements, including active owner participation in the definition of natural person. And that is one thing. Our law does not have a definition that requires a CPA to be a natural person or the CPA owner to be a natural person, which a lot of jurisdictions do. So we can debate that. I'll ask about the legal aspects of that, but I'm not sure I'm not sure what kind of effect it would have if we make that change, but I mean, I don't think it would have any effect on existing licensees or firm permits, but it could in the future.
Which change do you refer to?
Requiring that the majority ownership of a firm be natural persons versus other, valid entities, legal entities like corporation.
Yeah, I don't know where.
Trust or, that kind of
Or
thing.
another company.
But there are a number of jurisdictions that require the majority ownership to be natural persons.
What is CNMI doing? Because I know before currently they have all owners of a CPA firm need to be US
Currently, they
CPA.
still have the 1984 standard
Yeah,
law. They haven't
everybody
got it
US
passed yet.
CPA, so.
They haven't got their law updated
Okay.
yet.
So you can't be a partner in a CPA firm unless you're a US CPA.
Yeah.
I thought they're changing that or trying to change it to something.
I think I don't know, well, last I've heard from Dave is that they're trying to update it and they probably have that written, and I haven't seen the updated version that they're trying to pass.
Okay.
He got it through one house, I think, but didn't get through the other one yet, so they're still trying to get there.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll see, but they still have their old law.
Ours we just need 50% ownership by
Majority,
so 50 plus
50.1, I guess.
one
Yeah,
majority.
yeah.
Okay.
but it has to be a majority owner
Of US
US licensed CPAs. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But we're sort of silent, so in theory, we could have another entity be the 40.
Yeah,
The
that's the issue. I mean, there's,
49%.
the law doesn't address it, so it could be another entity, which would be like one of these private equity companies that could own 49.9%, you know? So,
But there has to be a private firm out there interested in buying.
yeah, well,
shares
you know,
of the CPA firm there.
I don't foresee that being as big a problem here as it is probably in the States. I mean, in the States, it's a lot bigger problem because there's a lot more competition. And the private equity is basically looking at the non-audit, non-assurance services side of the business. You know, the consulting and the bookkeeping and things that they can automate and squeeze all of the cost out of, so that it just happens, you know, automatically, and they make steady profit. Okay, anyway, and the peak committee is concerned with independence, and the task force is monitoring the work of the peak, so they're looking at all of that, so. But I'll ask when we get an attorney that can give us an opinion, I'll ask about, you know, is there any real reason to require it to be a natural person? Or not, from a legal standpoint. John Johnson discussed resources available to the state boards that he's accumulated over time through NASBA's affiliation with ARPL, the Alliance for Responsible Professional Licensing. He reviewed the 7 categories in which ARPL resources pertain and talked about strategies to utilize as the jurisdiction faces a deregulation bill. And ARPL has hired a lobbyist in Florida now. Being a Florida CPA certificate holder originally, I still have it active. I get all the information from Florida, and the Florida Institute of CPAs has put together a huge program, and they signed up like, I don't know, an extra 2,000 or 3,000 members at the end of last year when they were combating that bill that wanted to do away with the Florida Board of Accountancy. They signed up a whole bunch of members, new members, and they've coordinated all this. They have like 690 some people that visited the Florida Senate and state legislators at the beginning of this session. And they put forth a bill to rewrite the Florida law, include the new pathway, et cetera, and try to make it more amenable. And it's already passed the Senate committee. Now, the same guy who introduced the bill to get rid of the Board of Accountancy is in the House. I don't know, he's the House leader, majority, or whatever. Anyway, he's also introduced his bill, and of course it went right through committee because he's the head of the committee, you know, and so it's out of committee. So we have these 2 competing bills in Florida, but the same people that want to get rid of the Florida Board of Accountancy, want to get rid of all the boards of accountancy. There's the coalition of 2 or 3 of these organizations that just want to do away with licensing, period. Yeah, we don't need regulation. No. Somehow they forget why the SEC was formed in the first place. You know, what did we have before we had the SEC? It was a free-for-all, and anybody could do anything they wanted and sell you a stock that may or may not actually exist or be viable. But you know, but these people think, oh, regulation, any kind of regulation is bad. So there's going to be a continuing thing, but the Florida Institute has basically said to all its members, don't contact the legislature. We're handling it, and we've got it organized, and we're dealing with the people we need to deal with. Don't go down and talk to somebody you think you know and piss them off, and then wind up creating a whole problem for everybody else. But the people who want to do away with the Board of Accountancy have point blank said in some of the hearings, they could care less about whether or not it has an effect on public protection or anything else. That they don't care. the issue is not ethical issue. It's not a viability issue. It's not whether it's good or bad. It's just the fact that it's political. They want to be the first state to pass the thing, and they want to be known for passing it. And they want to start, essentially, they want to be the ones that start the ball rolling for the rest of the United States. And they could care less about any of the arguments you have that why we shouldn't do it. They couldn't care less. And they've actually said that in the hearing. We don't care. We don't care what happens. We want to just get it done. So it's
the accounting.
so it's very
Is it
difficult.
only the accounting profession or did we
No,
bring all the board?
all of, every board, they would get rid of every board they could, everyone that exists, the medical, everything. And they've said
In
point
the
blank,
medical board?
yeah, and they've said, we don't care what the results are, that's not our problem, we just want to get this ball rolling and get everything deregulated.
Our questions to regulate them.
So it's,
It's up to the
Well,
consumer to
yeah.
determine if you're
Well,
qualified or not.
same thing, so, well, but the issue is, for them, it's not an issue of ethics or anything other, it's just pure politics. It's pure politics, so, and those are the kind of things you can't argue with, you just have to figure out who's gonna side with them and who's not. So we'll see what happens, but it's gonna be the whole thing again. In the October meeting, Nicola Nealon, who's now the new chair, because this was last October before she became she says they're on the strategic planning task force. They have named new members, and the diagnostic initiative will be utilized as a starting point to develop a new strategic planning process. That's that same guy I think we covered before, and then Dan Dustin noted NASBA's involvement with the American Accounting Association's annual meeting and the NASBA ICPA summit and the meeting with the Accountants Coalition. So they're trying to get everybody, what do they call it? Circle the wagons, so to speak. And Bill gave his operational update on the overview of NASBA's client and compliance services through the operations dashboard and covers key performance indicators. I think they did a number of these updates to the board because they had a lot of new board members that hadn't been involved too much with NASBA at the board level before. And the fiscal year 2025 increase in net assets turned out to be $9.8 million. So they're doing okay. The net operating excess was 4.8 million. And then the board unanimously approved the nominations of Dr. Linda Beek and Ruben Davila. Ruben's the guy I was recommending as a visiting professor. Marcus Rayner and Attorney Stevens to be appointed to the board of directors for the Center for the Public Trust.
Is he ever gonna come to Guam?
He wants
seems
to,
like-
and he was wanting to this past summer, but
Somebody
then
keeps coming.
somebody's getting married somewhere in
Yeah,
Ireland or
big.
something.
Yeah.
What can I do? It was his daughter or something, I forget.
I want to say his hair got more grays. It's the
Yeah,
first time we
it has, yeah, he's a little older, but he still wants to come, so, for the whole summer. Okay, well, the last thing is the financial report, and it's estimated again, I have to estimate the application revenue, and I don't think we're gonna get any more test center revenue since NASBA said they switch over the end of October, so.
Sorry, did we decide what to do with that licensing software? My understanding is even though it's a GSA or the
Yeah,
products on NPSO or whatever,
yeah,
that we still have to
that's,
put out a bid.
well, that's part of the reason I wanna get Joe's legal
Okay.
services, so I can get him to review the
Okay.
thing we have to do to, yeah, cause I think you're right, I think we have to do the 3 bid thing. And prove that it's viable relative to the local preference or something like that.
Because if you don't get any bids, you could do
Yeah.
a sole source.
Yeah, so, but I need to figure out how to get it through the AG's office with no AG in charge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with no AG in charge.
You know, when I did
Well, you know,
when I did the bid for or the RFP for for the administrative contract,
yeah,
there was a girl that was there that was really helpful,
yeah,
but
I'll take,
so many people have left.
yeah, I know people come and go and, you know,
Did I ever tell you that Mary Ann works for us?
Yeah.
yeah, I saw that,
Yeah.
I saw an announcement that
Worked
she
for
went to work for
GPA.
you, for
GPA.
GPA, yeah, I saw an
I was just
announcement
talking to her
for
today.
yeah, yeah, I did,
You can ask GPA to borrow her.
yeah, really, yeah.
Is that possible?
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible for an MOU, they probably wanna charge us $500 an hour for.
I think, I mean, I
Do we
don't know
know
what she
anyone
pays. They,
Yeah.
they'd want you to pay for her,
But,
whatever work.
Yeah, they have to pay,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's
Well, it would be on her, you know, whatever we're paying her,
yeah,
they're paying. her.
yeah,
she used to
Well,
be our legal counsel. She used to attend our
yeah.
board meetings.
yeah, she
Yeah.
was,
Very
she's
much.
appointed,
She's
yeah,
familiar.
so.
I
Yeah.
think she had an accounting degree, didn't she also besides, I thought she did
think
besides
so,
law.
but I'm not sure, yeah, I think so.
What's she doing there? Because I thought at one point she was like a trial attorney going to court.
You know,
I think she's been through
she was,
several
yeah, I think
iterations.
she was doing regulation and I think that's why she left, cause
Yeah.
Doug was having everybody go to court, whether you
Right,
liked it
right,
or not.
yeah.
That could drive you away, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, having never done it so himself, right? Anyway, never mind, I didn't. Anyway, so basically, although we have estimated revenues, I think it's within a couple of $1,000, so.
Or in the blue or
Yeah,
the
we're,
black.
we're in the blue or the black or the green, if you will. But, I'm extrapolating, I don't think we'll have any issue of meeting our budgeted revenue, the 885.
Okay,
And I'm pretty sure we could make a $300,000 contribution at a minimum, to the down fund, anytime we're ready.
next month.
Yeah, because we do have the authorization to spend up to our excess, as long as we do it in accordance with our statute.
Okay.
So which one of these exam fees go away? Just the second one?
The computer test center, the 3570. That's all we're gonna get probably for the whole year.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, I may have to adjust that for the, projection, I think it's like $1,000 or $800, something like that. Cause I'm not sure whether, I'm thinking we're gonna get maybe $800 in November from October, cause it's always a month delayed. But,
So will UOG be giving us status reports or would that still come from NASCA or?
no, it'll come from you, whatever we get will come from UOG, we can ask Dr. Jones
or Randy,
yeah, Randy, either one, he's still in charge of it, so. But it's, UOG is going to operate the test center under the research corp. So Randy's actually an employee of the research corp. The UOG Research Corporation, I guess. I don't know how all that works, but
I think they do that so they don't have to necessarily follow the
it gives them more
government
flexibility, yeah,
procurement and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. So, but otherwise, I'm pretty sure we're gonna meet our goal. I don't think we have a problem. We have only 1.4 million in the bank. We should at least put the other 300,000 in and earn a lot more than 0.1%.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, when do you have to submit the budget for the next fiscal year?
January,
Like next month, January?
yeah. Seems like we just did that,
Yeah,
yeah, anyway, yeah, that's all I have, so.
Okay, so looking at the agenda, last item is, there's nothing else, so anything else up for discussion? If not, can I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
so moved.
Move a second
Second.
by Jenny. Okay, meeting adjourned and
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Christmas. Yeah.
So is the traffic on?
Well, what
Not
time is
likely.
it now?